Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing how to set up Apex Rollup using Apex triggers. This is the same scratch org that I was using when showing off how to set up Apex Rollup with record triggered flows. So I've gone and deactivated both of those flows. I'm in my Opportunity Object Manager page already, so I'm going to go to the Triggers tab. I'm going to click New. And I'm actually going to take the snippet that's included in the Apex Rollup README. So this lists out all of the required trigger contexts that is necessary to get Apex Rollup working in your org. So I'm going to name this trigger Opportunity Trigger. We don't actually need after delete, which I'd include as information in the README. That's specifically for the object types that support the built-in merge functionality within Salesforce. So I'll get rid of this note. And of course, it goes without saying, or perhaps with saying, that in general, we recommend that you don't put any logic in your triggers. And that you instead have trigger handlers that run your triggerable code. With that being said, if you don't already have a trigger in your org and your only use case is to set up Apex Rollup, it's as simple as this. This one line of code is going to be responsible for driving out all of the same automation that you saw with the Apex actions in Flow in both versions of the flow. So now, if I go back to my sales app, and I open up one of the accounts that I had, I'll go back to the account that was being used to demonstrate the flow rollup functionality. And I'll create a new opportunity. Let's give it a nice big amount. I'll refresh the page. And once more, you can see now that the concatenation field has properly updated to show and include the sorted new value. The max op last modified date is correctly showing now-ish. The created date time being a minimum, it's not going to change, but the count has correctly incremented and the sum has been correctly incremented. And once more, now if I go back and I remove this opportunity, and I go back to the parent account and refresh the page, I'll immediately see all of those values get decremented or updated back to what they were before. Now, that's a really happy path scenario. I said that there are a lot of different pieces of customization that you might prefer to use when acting on your account object, for example. One thing that you've seen when I'm performing these rollups is that I'm always refreshing the page to get the updated values, or I'm clicking the Recalculate Rollups button. Well, let's say we have something that's really critical to be shown on the page as soon as updates are made. One way that you can go about doing that is through the piece of custom metadata that's included with Apex Rollup called the Rollup Control. So if I go to custom metadata, for now, I'm going to show what this would look like just on the org default Rollup Control record, which ships with Apex Rollup. So I'm going to edit this, and there's this field, should run as, and you'll see by default it's set to queuable. If I set this to synchronous rollup and update the org default record, and I go back to the account, recreate that opportunity, some large amount again, and now immediately when I go back to the details page, you can see those updates have been made. The count has been incremented, the concatenation field has been updated, the max has been updated again, the amount has been updated. So I'll go back, delete that record, flip back to the details tab, flipped back a little too quickly that time, didn't quite catch it. So I'll refresh the page. And just like that, we're back to exactly where we were. So that's one of the nice pieces of customization that you can do. And you can see in the Rollup Control custom metadata record that ships with Apex Rollup, the org default record, any rollup that you associate with it is going to be showing up here. If you need to create a Rollup Control record to run Apex Rollup synchronously for just a subset of the rollups that you're doing, you can then go to the individual rollups that you need to have run synchronously, and you can update the Rollup Control to something other than the org default. So it's a really nice, helpful hack in situations where you only have a subset of rollups where you would need to immediately be showing those values. So I'm going to go back, edit this, put it back to queuable. And now I want to go a little bit more into depth. You've seen Apex Rollup running synchronously. You've seen Apex Rollup running asynchronously. So now I want to show off some more complicated rollups that once again take advantage of that Calc Item Where Clause. You've seen a little bit of that with one of the custom metadata records that I was showing off in the setup video, which has a Calc Item Where Clause on it already. So this particular rollup goes to a checkbox field in this case, and it only is true for opportunities where there's a stage name that has a word like third in it. Now when we go back to our account, you can see that some of the opportunities do have a stage name of third. So that checkbox right now on the account does contain that keyword. So let's update the rollup operation from some to none to show how the use of that Calc Item Where Clause again is driving powerful automation within the org in terms of the records that qualify. Now when I come back here, I have to be really careful because when I'm on this page, when that Recalculate Rollups button is showing, it only has the version of the custom metadata that was available to it when the page first loaded. So I have to remember to refresh the page in order to get that update to the custom metadata that I just made. And now, if I were to click Recalculate Rollups, that flag is going to be cleared. And it doesn't matter how many additional opportunities I add that have that stage name, as long as the rollup operation here is set to none. But now I can go back, reflip it to some, and I can just update one of these opportunities. Doesn't even matter which one. Just put in some random value. And if I were to refresh the page again, just like that, the flag has been reset to true. Now that's an example of a more complicated rollup where the Calc Item Where Clause is actually required in order for the rollup to function. But let's go back to one of the other basic rollups for the opportunity. And let's do some exclusionary values on that Calc Item Where Clause. So here's a good one, for example, the op count to account. Now, when I was first talking about this, I was saying as long as the ID of the child object is the rollup field on it, it's always going to qualify for the rollup. If you choose a field other than the ID field, that field has to be set on the opportunity. So for example, with the opportunity that I just updated, I could get into a situation where I wanted to filter down to something more granular, where, for example, the order number had to be filled out. Then I would only have one opportunity that qualified here. So I can show you what that would look like just by flipping that And then we'll go to something more complicated with the Calc Item Where Clause. So if I just change that from opportunity ID to order number, and I come back here, I don't need to change anything else because I already have that one order number filled out. And I refresh the page. Now you can see that only one opportunity qualifies because that only the opportunity that I just touched has that order number filled out, and the rest of them just have blank order numbers. So go back, take even that field off, right? Come back here, refresh the page, and now there is no value for the count. So I'll come back, reset this to the opportunity ID the way that it was. I'll show you that if I don't refresh the page and I try to recalculate, nothing changes because the version of the custom metadata that I have on the page hasn't been updated yet. However, now once I've refreshed, recalculate, and the count comes back. But yeah, let's now do something more exclusive here where I can look to see, okay, well, you know what? I have this one opportunity that I updated during one of the other videos so that the stage name was going to be equal to prospecting in order to show off how the all-based rollup works. Once I change the stage name from third to prospecting, an all-based version of this rollup no longer works. But if I do the same thing here on the count and I say stage name equals prospecting, and I save this, and I remember to refresh the page. Now, when I click recalculate rollups, the count is going to show just that one proper value. And now it doesn't matter how many opportunities I add in here, right? As long as the stage name doesn't match what I'm looking for, then when I refresh the page, the count is not going to increment. If I go back to that new opportunity that I made and I update the stage name to match, and I come back to the details, refresh the page, and just like that, the count has been incremented. Now if I update it again to not match, you'll see that count go down. So there's lots of different ways that you can utilize these Calc Item Where clauses to drive even more powerful functionality than even what the base rollup is configured for. So you can sort of mix and match between the Calc Item Where clause to set up additional customization as far as which items end up matching for your rollups, as well as those three really special rollups, the all, none, or some based rollups, to do things like saying, yes, this is true. I have tasks for this month, for example. Now, another thing that I talked about last night in Flow is that there are those three big objects that we tend to work with in Salesforce that aren't supported by these lookup fields in custom metadata: task, event, and user. So if you are starting from those objects and you want to roll values up somewhere else, you have to do something a little more complicated. Now, one way to do that I can show you is if I were to go to task. Once we're in Apex Triggerland, a lot of things end up being much easier to do when it comes to Apex Rollup. So for example, I'm just going to make this task trigger. And I'm just going to do the bare minimum necessary to get Apex Rollup working, which is after insert, after update, and before delete. So for this, why don't we do a min on the task activity date field. I'll go back to the README and take a look at the methods that are available on Apex Rollup. And in particular, I'm looking for this method signature. So I'll just grab some of this. I'll bring it in here. So it's rollup.min from Apex. Now the min field on calc item, I'm looking for task.activity date. The lookup field, we're going to roll up to opportunity, so I'll use task.oneID. The lookup field on calc item is just going to be opportunity.id, and we're going to roll this field up to the opportunity close state. Lastly, we need to specify that it's the opportunity that we're looking to roll up to. Now, crucially at the end, if I'm just using a single rollup here, I need to include the method runCalc. If I'm going to be doing multiple rollups from here, just to show you, let's say I wanted to also include the count of tasks as the opportunity amount. So here I can say count in Apex. Here I'll just use the task ID, similar to the way that we did this for opportunity to account. And here I'll just say opportunity amount. Now, instead of doing runCalc for both of these, I just need to surround the both of them in another method called Rollup.batch, which will process the both of these rollups together. So I'll save and create this task trigger. And I'm going to go to the opportunity that I was just working on with the account. I'll create a new task, refresh the page just to be safe. Create a new task. Say it's a call. It's already related to the opportunity. Here, I'm going to set the activity date to something in the past. Save that task. And now when I refresh the page, you can see that the opportunity's close date has already updated to match the minimum. So now if I make another task, some random task, but I make a activity date that's in the future, so it's not something that qualifies for the min, and I add this to the opportunity. When I refresh the page, that min has not been updated. Do the same thing, but this time put the activity date way in the past. And now when I save and refresh the page, you can see that the close date ends up being updated. Crucially, this kind of rollup is really only useful in the event that you don't want to use custom metadata, or you can't use custom metadata, again, as is the case with task, event, and user. So they're the same rollup operations that you can create, modify, and have set up for you using custom metadata. All of these operations exist in Apex as well, and the README shows how to access these different methods and what the expected call signature for those methods is. So hopefully at the end of this, you've seen how easy it is with sometimes just a single line of code when using custom metadata, or a few lines of code if you're doing something more complex with task, event, or user, to have Apex Rollup be set up from Apex itself and use that same automation that you saw with Flow to power the rollups for your parent level objects and get that rich data onto them. I hope this video has been helpful for you and shown you some of the basic setup for Apex Rollup, how Calc Item Where Clauses can help you to hone in on the data that you'd like to roll up, how the more powerful rollups using all, some, or none in conjunction with the Calc Item Where Clause can end up rolling up things like checkboxes or true and false values to your text-based fields. And in the end, you're left with a ton of options about the data that you're able to roll up. You're left with a ton of options for how you'd like to implement those rollups, either through Flow or through Apex. And once you have it set up, it's working forever. It's going to scale with the needs of your business. No matter how many children records you end up having, Apex Rollup will be able to accurately and quickly produce the correct values for you in your org. So thanks again. Hope this has been helpful, and we'll see you next time.